All right, I'm doing this, so we'll see how it goes. Hey everyone, my name is Ericka Andersen, and I am a freelance writer, an author, a mom, a reader, author of the upcoming book, Reason to Return, Why Women Need the Church and the Church Needs Women. And I'm here today to talk to you about why church makes the world better. Now, I got this idea after posting I posted a TikTok video, not really thinking a whole lot about it, just mentioning some of the research that I found about how people that go to church are happier and have better mental health and are more generous. I just thought it was interesting. Well, the pushback I got was absolutely insane. People were telling me that I was flat out lying, that I was misrepresenting data, that wasn't true, that church people are the most horrible. And so I obviously don't think that's true, but I got demands like, where's your research? Where's your data? And so it took me a while, but I finally got it together to sort of compile some of the data from some of this. So I want to share with you some of what I found to show that going to church actually makes you better. It makes your community, your family, and your society better. And even if you don't believe in God, even if you're not a Christian, even if faith isn't a part of your life, I think it's still okay to acknowledge that the faith of others does contribute positively to the world. Now, that's not to say that there is no abusive churches out there. That's not to say there are no ministry leaders out there that have done the very wrong thing. We've all seen it. We know it's true. But what we also know, and what isn't as regularly acknowledged in the narrative about Christianity and the church in the West, is all the good things that come from being a part of a local church. Now, it sounds simple. It's crazy, all the things that come from it. So let's talk about a few of them. All right, so I've written about this in a couple of places. You can find articles by me in the American Conservative, USA Today, the Wall Street Journal, the Daily Signal. But let's talk about a few of these things. So number one, culture says that the church is emotionally repressive, destructive to your mental health. The data says this, and this is from 2 separate Gallup polls and the Pew Research Center. The only people whose mental health improved in 2020, the year of the pandemic, were those who went to church once a week. Now I'm talking online or in person. Obviously, a lot of churches were closed in 2020, but those who were consistent about attending and being part of their local church in 2020, the only demographic to have improved mental health at the end of the year. Also, they are much more likely to be very satisfied with their lives, and Pew Research found that religious people tend to be happier and more civically engaged. So that's an interesting one. Number 2, church people, this is the myth. The myth is that church people don't really care about the poor. What the data says is the opposite of that. What it says is this: churchgoers are some of the most generous people on the planet in terms of both philanthropy, volunteerism, and all of those things. The USA Giving Foundation said that giving, just in general philanthropy, giving and attendance at religious services have a very high correlation. A 2017 study from the Lilly School of Philanthropy found that 62% of religiously faithful families, so those would be people who are going to church on the regular, donate to charity, while only 46% of families that don't go to church contribute to charity. In their book, American Grace, Putnam and Campbell found that those who donate to religious causes are 88% of those are also more likely to give to secular causes, things like the Humane Society or the American Cancer Society. They are much more likely to give to those things as well as religious causes than those who are not attending church and who are not religious. Lastly, on this one, a 2011 Pew study found that civic and community engagement from Americans going to church had higher rates. They had higher rates of volunteerism, giving, and civic participation. Sorry, I kind of didn't say that correctly. But it's safe to say there's plenty of research that shows that the religiously faithful, those who go to church, those who practice their faith, are much more generous in terms of what they donate, what they do, what they give with their time. All right, next one. Culture says church is a waste of time. Data says church actually increases your physical and mental health and increases your life by 7 years. I know that sounds totally crazy. How could that be true? But let's talk about it. The Harvard School of Public Health found that people who attended weekly religious services or practiced daily prayer in youth reported greater life satisfaction. Also, the Harvard School of Public Health is the one that found the number that the faithful live on average 7 years longer. From the Mayo Clinic, Most studies have shown that religious involvement and spirituality are associated with better health outcomes, including longer longevity, coping skills, health-related quality, and less anxiety, depression, and suicide. Studies have shown that addressing these spiritual needs may enhance recovery from illness. And then Michigan State University says that religion has a positive impact on lower cancer risk and a better cancer prognosis in over 75% of the studies examining this. Next, culture says church brings out the worst in people. Is that true? I don't know. What the data says is this: religious people are less likely to commit crimes, drop out of school, abuse their wives, and more likely to donate blood, volunteer, donate money, and become civically involved. You can find research on those things at the Rand Foundation, Baylor University, and several other places that you can check out on my blog post, which is on my website, erickaandersen.com, and I will put in the link of the notes down there in YouTube. Next up, culture says Christians are pro-birth, not pro-life. Now, you know this one gets to me because the pro-life issue is very important to me, and I know this isn't true, but it's important to put some numbers to it so people know what we're talking about. So that's what the culture says. The data says that practicing Christians are much more likely to foster, adopt, as well as donate money towards pregnancy centers and services for vulnerable moms. So Barna found that practicing Christians are twice as likely to adopt, and Pew found that 65% of foster parents attend church compared with 39% of the general population. So you can see that there's a much higher percentage of foster parents that are churchgoers that have stepped up to take this duty than non-churchgoers. Since 2010, giving to adoption ministries has seen a rise of 81% to orphan care ministries, and orphan care ministries by 90%. And most of these are, Christian adoption. So you think it's Christians that are donating to these places. And that is in the past 10 years, we look at that rise, 81% and 90% increase in giving to these organizations. Say what you will about pro-lifers, but they are generous and they care about mothers and babies, not only before birth, but after, and they do their due diligence in so many ways to help ensure that they have what they need. And then, lastly, according to the Charlotte Lozer Institute, there are 3,000 pro-life pregnancy centers nationwide funded through donations from Christians and providing guidance, counseling, physical needs, and monetary support for moms and babies. Now, there's a lot more that I could cover. There's a lot more myths and there's a lot more data, but that's just a little peek into some of what you may hear in culture that doesn't pan out with some of the really great data out there about Christians and churchgoers and all of those things. Christians are not perfect, but there's something about having an active faith in all the ways that God intended, including going to church, that builds us up and builds up those around us. It reminds us that we're living for something greater than ourselves. Even though plenty of Christians fail big in the spotlight, I have been hurt and disappointed by them myself. Even like in the past couple of weeks, there have been some names that have been out there that I'm like, man, why? Why is this person doing this? Why is this sin sullying the name of God? However, I think it's clear to see through information like I've shared today that God works through our imperfections and he accomplishes his work through us despite them. And he says in the Bible, one of the biggest ways that he accomplishes his work on earth is through the church, the body. And we are the body. We are the hands and feet of Jesus, not by our lonesome, but with our brothers and sisters in the church. And through that, working together, we're able to bring about the flourishing of so many people and families and communities and societies and personal mental health and all of those things. So there's work to be done. There's a lot of refining that needs to be done. The church is never going to be perfect here on earth. There's plenty that you'll read in the Bible of criticism of the church. And no, like we are never going to be, it's never going to be heaven on earth. That's not what we're here to do. But what I can do and play the part is to share this information with you and hope that you'll consider it and consider the good that church and church going does for the world around you. I think the best of what God has for us here on earth comes through the hands and feet and hearts of those that serve him in the local church. And I think we can see that in a lot of this information I've shared today. So, check out my blog if you want to have the links to all of those things and you will find that. Follow me on TikTok at the Cool Church Girl if you want to have little snapshots and little tidbits, bites of information on some of this stuff on a regular or a daily basis. And if you're interested in staying connected with me and learning more about my book, A Reason to Return, Why Women Need the Church and the Church Needs Women, coming out from Nav Press in November 2022, leave a comment with your email or head to my website and sign up for my for my email list. And I send those out, I don't know, twice a month or so, but I don't spam you, and it's always good stuff. I always aim to bring quality content. So anyway, I'd love to connect with you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.